Most of us don't think of this as being a drug delivery device. Hundreds of millions of dollars are spent each year perfecting the design of this device so that it delivers a burst of potent nicotine as rapidly as possible in a way that is misperceived as pleasurably as possible. Misperceived because smokers equate the elimination of the discomfort and the unease and the irritability of withdrawal, the elimination of that with pleasure. And this device is precisely engineered to do that. And I want to look at you with a completely straight face and being totally serious in saying that outside of the implantable insulin pump, this is the most sophisticated drug delivery device in our community today. Okay? And this perverse band of tobacco, or pardon me, cigarette design engineers use a whole variety of techniques which most health professionals are totally unaware of to perfect the design of that device. So front-end lift is a concept that most clinicians are unaware of. But you can design a cigarette such that the first few millimeters of that cigarette tobacco mixture contain an intense burst of nicotine so that a smoker has one of those kind of moments as rapidly and as quickly as possible. There's no such thing as a light cigarette. A light cigarette is manufactured by packing the tobacco more loosely in the tube and then with lasers, typically, drilling microscopic perforations in this area of the filter tube junction. So that when you put that cigarette on a vacuum tube, more air swirls through the loosely packed tobacco and huge amounts of air come through those ventilation holes, diluting the smoke that ends up in the flask at the end of the vacuum tube, so that when they go to measure nicotine and tar levels, the smoke is much more dilute, and they can say, these are light cigarettes. Well, they're not allowed to call them that anymore, but nonetheless, they try to identify cigarettes by package identifiers and colors as being lighter and, in the minds of smokers, safer. Smokers who smoke light cigarettes, in order to maintain the constancy of their nicotine intake, perform what we call over-smoking. They smoke more of the total length of the cigarette, therefore increasing not only the intake of the normal carcinogens that are associated with tobacco smoke, but because there's more what we call secondary combustion. So you smoke, this gets burned, and the stuff that gets dragged along gets deposited here. As the cigarette burns along, that gets burnt again, and that's what we call secondary combustion. And those secondary combustion products are even more toxic than the products of primary combustion. They smoke more of the total length of the cigarette, and they tend to inhale more deeply. So they deliver a deadlier form of smoke far more deeply into the interstices of their lungs. This is what we call over-smoking. And the other thing that they learn to do very unconsciously, and if you check in your hospital smoking laboratory, you'll see this. Every hospital has a smoking laboratory. It's about 16 feet from many of the doors of the hospital. You'll see that they don't smoke the way that Greta Garbo did, or whoever those Hollywood starlets were, in this kind of way. They grip their cigarettes tenaciously, like this, because they've learned unconsciously that if you hold your cigarette that way, you block off these ventilation holes, and so you get a more intense delivery of nicotine.
I was going to ask about e-cigarettes.
Yeah, can we come back to that? Can we park that?
Yeah.
Okay, e-cigarettes, THC. Somebody's keeping track of all these things, right? Right. If I mention freebasing, you all think of crack. Freebasing was invented by the tobacco industry. You add formaldehyde to the tobacco leaf mixture, and the pH, the acidity or the alkalinity, the pH of the smoke that's produced by the combustion of that tobacco leaf mixture becomes more basic, more alkaline. And therefore, nicotine is driven across the alveolar membrane much more rapidly than would otherwise be the case, which means that the smoker gets their hit of nicotine even more quickly than would normally be the case. And so freebasing was invented by the tobacco industry. The world's most popular cigarette became the world's most popular cigarette, not because people like cowboys or Formula One race cars, but because Marlboro was the first freebasing cigarette. And now all the domestically produced tobacco products are made using the freebasing kind of